Welcome to today's program of Free to Fly. The title of what I would like to share today is Who Has the Last Say? Generally, in our circumstances or whatever we may be facing at the moment, someone or something has the last say. Either it is myself, or it is what someone else has said, or it may be because of past experiences, or because of the fact that we've perhaps come to God and maybe we've not received an answer, and we've come to certain conclusions about this situation. But today I want to share with us a thought on who actually has the last say. Let's turn in our Bibles to Luke chapter 7 and read from verses 1 to 10. Luke 7 verses 1 to 10. Now when he had ended all his sayings in the audience of the people, he entered into Capernaum. And a certain centurion's servant who was dear unto him was sick and ready to die. And when he heard of Jesus, he sent unto him the elders of the Jews, beseeching him that he would come and heal his servant. And when they came to Jesus, they besought him instantly, saying that he was worthy for whom he should do this. For he loveth our nation, and he hath built us a synagogue. Then Jesus went with them. And when he was now not far from the house, the centurion sent friends to him, saying unto him, Lord, trouble not thyself, for I am not worthy that thou shouldest enter under my roof. Wherefore, neither thought I myself worthy to come unto thee, but say in a word, and my servant shall be healed. For I also am a man set under authority, having under me soldiers. And I say unto one, Go, and he goeth, and to another, Come, and he cometh, and to my servant, Do this, and he doeth it. When Jesus heard these things, he marveled at him, and turned him about and said unto the people that followed him, I say unto you, I have not found so great faith, no, not in Israel. And they that were sent, returning to the house, found the servant whole that had been sick. We read in this passage about a Roman centurion. And a Roman centurion was a person who had about 100 soldiers under his authority. And generally, they did not have any dealings with Jews. They certainly did not come to any Jew with such a request for healing for a slave. But this particular centurion was different. We see that he had even built a synagogue for the Jews. He had served the nation with so much of devotion. He genuinely loved the people, and that is what the elders of the Jews came to Jesus and told him, because they understood that this centurion was different. He had done perhaps everything right. He loved, it appeared that he loved this God even though he was not a Jew, that he loved the people, and yet at this point he was facing a crisis. Verse 2 says that his servant who was dear to him was sick and was about to die. He was about to lose something that was very precious to him. I'm certain that even many of us can identify with this Roman centurion in many ways. Perhaps we are about to lose, or maybe something that is precious to us in some way, something that is important to us in some way is affected. It is possibly our lives on the whole. And we know that things are not the way it ought to be. And we really don't know how to make sense out of it or what to do. It may be a marriage relationship where we have invested so much of our lives, devoted so much of our time and energy into this relationship. But this thing which is so precious to us is affected. It is not the way it ought to be. Or maybe it is a sickness. Perhaps we've been diagnosed, or someone close to us has been diagnosed with a sickness where there seems to be no hope. Or it may be even a job situation. Maybe we've invested much in our careers and things are not going the way we ever expected it to go. Whatever it is, it may be something precious to us. As much as this slave, as much as this servant was precious, was dear to the heart of this Roman centurion, and he was about to lose this precious thing, in the same way, I believe that there are certain things which we count dear to us, things that are precious to us, and we've come to the conclusion that there is no hope. We're about to lose it, or we've lost it. But in such situations, we generally respond with the assumption that maybe it's meant to be like this. Maybe, yeah, I was meant to lose it. Maybe this is how it is. Perhaps I've done something wrong and I deserve it. Or maybe God really doesn't care. He's not interested, surely. I don't really know him. He wouldn't care about my situations. Who am I? And we sometimes try to spiritualize it and say, no, this is it, this is God's will, and this situation is because God wants me to go through it. But very often we come to such conclusions without ever having gone to God, without ever having listened to His voice, without knowing what He had to say about the situation. Yes, we may be spiritual, we may pray about it. Nevertheless, praying very often is just informing God. We say, Lord, don't you see this? This is what I'm going through. And we give Him so much of information and so much of facts which He knows anyway. And we fail to realize that prayer is in fact listening to God. It is communing with God. It is fellowshipping with Him. It is knowing what He has to say. Prayer is a dialogue. It's not just a monologue where I'm informing God. And this Roman centurion responded to this situation where he was losing something precious to him, where something important to him was affected. He responded to this situation in such an amazing way that we see what Jesus said. Jesus said, I have not seen such faith even in Israel. In the whole of Israel, with all of his encounters where he had healed so many people, he had raised people from the dead, there were so many miracles that had been accomplished, especially among the Jews, yet he had not seen as much faith ever before. And I think that is remarkable. There is much that we can learn about this centurion's response. The question is, when we are facing such situations where something important to us is affected in some way, how should we respond? I believe the first thing we need to do is to understand that we can come to Jesus. Now, it was not acceptable for a Roman centurion to go to a Jew with such a request. It just did not happen. In fact, centurions or Romans, they were despised by the Jews. And this centurion, before he sent this request, probably wondered, how would Jesus respond? Yet, he took a step and he decided that he would go to Jesus with this request. We need to, in whatever situation that we are facing at this point, we need to forget about our background and what people might think. We conclude generally, I'm sure God wouldn't care. After all, who am I? I'm not particularly important. Why would God take any notice of me? But we need to understand that this God that we serve is a God that we can come to no matter who we are. This was a Roman centurion, an outsider, if I may say it that way. And we might think, I don't really know this God. Who is Jesus? Or perhaps we know what it means to have a relationship with Him, but we don't think that Jesus might be interested in this situation. But I want to encourage all of us today, just come to Jesus. In Matthew 11 verse 28, Jesus said, "Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." You know, Jesus gave us an open invitation. He said, "Come." And he didn't say only a few of you, only some of you, only those super spiritual ones come to me. He said all. No matter what background you are from, don't let it inhibit you. Simply come to Jesus. And let's not think that it's something for others. You know, God wants to give you a personal experience. He is very, very concerned about you. What is precious to you is precious to Him. What is important to you, no matter how insignificant it may seem, it is important to Him. Because He created you. He formed you. He knew you even before you were formed in your mother's womb. He knows the plans that He has for you. He wants to prosper you. He wants to bless you. He wants to be with you, to give you a revelation of who He is. Simply come to Him. Come to Him. And today is the day that we decide that we would come to Jesus. Whatever the situation has been thus far, no matter how hopeless it may have been, we don't need to think it is an experience for someone else. It is an experience for you. God is interested in you. Just go to Him.